you how to make this salesman edit in Desmos. First, let's open Desmos. Then, we need to look for some images. If you didn't know, guys, you can download an image and import it to Desmos. I'll show you how to do that once I download it. As you can see, you can just drag your image into the left side of the Desmos website. You can change the settings of the image over here. This will be important later. Now, let's find all the images. Now we have gotten our images. Set all their centers to 0, 0 so that they are in the center of the graph. Now set the opacity to 0 on each one so that they don't all show up at once. Since we are using Desmos to make this salesman edit, you have to make all transitions and effects yourself. First, let's make the easing and zoom in transition from CapCut. First, we need the graph for the keyframes that zoom in. Luckily, someone already pasted these equations into Desmos. Let's copy this function into our graph. We are missing a variable, so let us create it. Let's do some testing to see what value works best. .6 works pretty well, so I will use it for this ease in. Let's make a time variable. Now let's make a ticker. Let's make it run at 30 FPS. For now, let's assume each image will consume 60 frames or 2 seconds. This means our animation should be 300 frames. Let's make the time variable increase by 1 every frame and loop back when it hits 300 frames. Test if it works by hitting play. As you can see, I changed the FPS to 60 because 30 was too slow. Now each picture will only show up for 1 second. The easing in function peaks at pi divided by 2, but we need it to peak at 60 because each image shows up for 60 frames. Let's find a function transformation that will satisfy this problem. Now, let us put that easing in graph into the scale of the image to make a zoom in easing in effect from CapCut. And just like that, we have made a zooming in effect on the first image. I'm gonna make an action that resets the time so I don't have to do it manually anymore. Since our equation was only made to work from frames 0 to 60, we need to restrict it later on. That's why it moves weirdly after 60 frames. I'm gonna check one of my edits to see if we need to add anything else. Let's add a fade out. I'm gonna make an equation that goes to 0 when it hits 60 frames so that it fades out when it is done. BT all over 60 works here. It doesn't look smooth, so I'm gonna add a graph into the opacity to make it better. Before I do that though, I'm gonna add a restriction so that nothing appears after 60 frames using a piecewise function. Now, I'm gonna make the equation. It's always good to compare to a CapCut edit to see if you are missing anything. That equation worked. Now I'm gonna add a restriction so that nothing appears after 60 frames. BTW undefined means one opacity, so make sure your else statement in the PC's function is set to 0, not undefined. There we go, it works. Now I'm gonna make a shake effect. To do this, I'm gonna make 2 tables of 300 values for each frames. One table is for X and one is for Y. Then I'm gonna index it using the current frame count using the T variable. This will create a random movement effect which looks like a shake. Remember that randomized values can't be negative, so you have to subtract the middle value so that it is evenly distributed through a square. The middle value is 1,1, so I will do that now. Set it as the center point and boom, you now have a random shake. The shake is very intense, so I'm gonna decrease the intensity. I'm also gonna make the shake fade out too. Instead of using ease, and I use the right side of the normal distribution because it looks better. Let's make the image have a small rotation because it looks cooler. That rotation is way too strong, we gotta decrease it. It looks cool now.